Hello, I'm Suzanne James. Welcome to the program. Very pleased to have a special guest today, Melbourne musician and friend of Night Shift, Les Thomas. When we last caught up with Les, he'd just had a September fundraiser in Melbourne for humanitarian aid in Gaza, at which he launched his then new single, The Firing Line. Now, that's one of several songs on his new album that we're going to talk to him about today, including his latest one, The Last of the Old Holdens. And Les joins us now from Melbourne. Les Thomas, welcome.
Thanks so much, Susan. Great to be chatting again.
Now, you've been quite busy since we saw you last, so tell me all about this album and The Last of the Old Holdens and what other songs are on it.
As mentioned, The Firing Line was the lead single for the album, which is called I Remember Everything. It's a 10-song album, and the title track basically a journey through history, if you can imagine, starting with, the days of the crucifixions and so forth, going through various political movements, social and cultural figures. You've got the struggles of anti-colonialism in Africa and wars, and talk about Truganini in Australia, figures like Frida Kahlo. Um, it's basically a journey through time about events that have shaped our consciousness, and I felt like that was a worthy kind of centerpiece of this album, because it's very humanistic in terms of its themes. Um, and the second single that's coming out is called The Last of the Old Holdens, which is a lot more directly close to home. I come from a working class family in Williamstown, where my dad was a sheet metal worker, come tech school teacher, and he taught a lot of the kids that went on to work at places like Holden. And the song is talking about the people, the stories around that whole way of life. And I think it's an important thing that we actually celebrate and recognize the lives of working class people in a very empathetic and real way. Having worked for many years on factory floors, these days I work in an office, and that's part of a trend across industries. But yeah, I think it's a matter of honoring the stories and the people.
I remember when the Tony Abbott government basically saw the last of the car factories in Melbourne shut down. What was the atmosphere like in your family when that happened, when the Australian car industry was gone forever and it was finally gone offshore and we were never going to get it back?
Well, we had a lot of reasons to be angry at those Liberal governments and their policies, the kind of neoliberalism, the attacks on unions that undermined so many manufacturing industries. And yeah, like my dad was a long time trade unionist. Um, I remember him getting really worked up, actually. People might remember the cavalcade to Canberra, but yeah, he had a very visceral anger, which is understandable, um, about what Howard and later Abbott came to do. He was around during the MUA dispute and stuff like that. I was a young shop steward at the time,
Mm.
so I suppose, in terms of the car industry, it was another blow and an injury to, that sort of period when families could actually count on one wage to support them, a living
Yeah.
wage.
You're about to tour the UK. You've got a number of gigs over there, which is all very exciting, and you'll no doubt meet a lot of like-minded people. Tell us some more about that tour, Les, how it came to be that you were going and what sort of gigs you might be doing while you're in the UK.
Okay, so a while back, I sent out a little email, through the interwebs to a festival committee in Tolpuddle in Dorset, England, which is the home of the Tolpuddle Martyrs Festival. And if people aren't aware of the history of the Tolpuddle Martyrs, they were a group of six farm labourers who came together in 1834 to try to organise for better wages and conditions. They were, facing starvation and extreme poverty with their families. And yeah, the authorities at the time chose to punish them with transportation to Australia under an archaic law against swearing secret oaths. So, yeah, they were sent out to Australia. 100,000 workers rose up in protest through the streets of London, and it basically kicked off the early union movement. There was an appeal in their trial, and it was argued that the king's own brother had sworn a secret oath in order to become a member of the Masons, and eventually the martyrs were given a reprieve, and most of them went back to England. Some of them later migrated to places like Canada and whatnot. But the festival honours that legacy and the trade union movement that emerged from that. They tend to have Billy Bragg play most years and other left-wing singer-songwriters and bands. And yeah, I suppose I'm part of that tradition, and they liked my music enough to say, come and join us.
Well, that's fantastic news. And it's such an incredible history, isn't it? The working class struggle. It goes back so far. And even modern Labor governments, you couldn't accuse them of over representing the average worker these days, could you?
Unfortunately not. No, no. I think, yeah, a lot of it basically falls to those of us who, yeah, remember those traditions and are willing to organise at the grassroots.
Now, you've got quite a bit of music on your back catalogue now. Talk us through where people can go back to your earlier stuff and where they can find your current album, how they can go about downloading it, Les.
The best platform for independent artists like me is Bandcamp, where people can find all of my earlier releases, starting with the 2013 album Survivor's Tale. They put out quite a few singles, including Freedom Fighters, about the Tasmanian Aboriginal men Tunnerminnerwait and Mulbahena. Um, my last album, All My Friends Are Superstars, put out in 2023, and I'll be setting up a pre-order pretty soon for the next album, I Remember Everything. So um, I'd encourage people to sign up to my mailing list as well, just to stay up to date with releases and gigs and things like that. It's a great way to, yeah, be informed. If people visit my webpage, it's lesthomasmusic.com, and you'll find a sign up form there. And
Terrific.
yeah, that takes people to everything that they need.
Okay, well, I encourage everybody to look up lesthomasmusic.com. Is that correct?
That's the one,
Yep.
yes.
And look at his fabulous work in support of not only vulnerable people in war zones, but vulnerable working class people that are increasingly underrepresented even by Labor governments. It's great work, Les. So you're going to the UK. When did we expect you to come back?
I'll be in the UK from the 30th of June and then landing back home on the 5th of August. Later in the year, I'll be launching the new album on the 20th of September at the Northcote Social Club with my full band, which I'm really looking forward to. So, really
Fantastic.
encouraging people to get along to that. Hopefully, we can tour it throughout as much of the rest of Australia as possible. I'm always open to wherever there are opportunities to play, so don't hesitate to get in touch.
We absolutely will. And we'll so looking forward to catching up with you when you do come back from the UK and hear how it all went. So thanks so much for your time today, Les.
Great pleasure, Susan. Thanks so much for your work, and thanks to Green Left. And yeah, look forward to seeing you after the tour.
You've been listening to Les Thomas. You can hear all about his music and his work in defence of the working class at lesthomasmusic.com. You can also check out the release of his latest single off his new album, The Last of the Old Holdens. That's also available from his website or from YouTube now. My name's Suzanne James. Thank you for joining us.